Hey y'all, welcome to this week's stunning episode of Race Kiki with Jonathan Lee. I'm your host, Jonathan, but you already knew that, didn't you? I'm talking with Nicole Lynne today. She's a beautiful, bold, intelligent, sophisticated, elegant black woman that I used to work with back in the day when I was a corporate Barbie at TIACREF. We've both moved on from that, but the legacy is still there. And we reminisce about Denver. She grew up there her entire life. I moved there in 2. 92 or 3. I don't know, it gets a little fuzzy. She drinks. The stories are juicy, y'all. Remember, we can't fix a problem we're afraid to talk about. So let's talk about racism some more. One conversation at a time. We will be better. Be incredible. Hey, Nicole Lynne. Welcome to Race
Hi.
Key with Jonathan Lee.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm really honored to be on this. I really am.
You
You're
know,
awesome.
when we got into our little conversation back and forth on that thing that I posted on Facebook,
Right.
uh, I really wanted to have you here because you and I were business women together back in
Mhm.
my Tia Craft days.
Yes.
And I watched you navigate a very, 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 very conservative white space
Oh, you noticed
with
that, huh?
with this kind of poise and sophistication
Oh,
that that you knew all of the shit that was being thrown at you, but you're all like, I can't be bothered with your foolishness.
mm.
So I
Well,
brought you here.
I'm so glad somebody saw all that.
I saw the way that you were doing it and all of this crap that's being thrown your way. Oh, ooh, your hair is so
Mm,
is that did you
mm.
is that yours or I saw all of that and
Uh-huh.
I saw the way you deflected all of this bullshit
Mm-hmm.
and still stood in your strong, beautiful black woman.
Mm, mm. Well, we can talk about that. Absolutely.
Now, when did you learn about race?
Well, first I'll give you a little bit about background about my upbringing. And
Yeah.
this is probably indicating of why I react to those kind of situations the way I do.
Okay.
I grew up in private Catholic schools, predominantly white. It was either maybe about 5 of us in the whole entire school
Mm-hmm.
or, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So and then I would go home and we lived in Park Hill, and Park Hill was rough those days.
Mm-hmm.
It was, black neighborhood that day,
Mm-hmm.
back then. Now it's converted,
It's
gentrified,
been no colonized.
colonized. Yes,
Yes, it's been
it has
colonized.
been colonized. Once was the lowest part of Colorado, and now it's
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
most expensive one now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it was like navigating two different worlds. Now that I look at it, I was navigating two different worlds all the time. And you asked, when did I realize about race?
Mm-hmm.
I My parents told me when I was young, back in early 70s, they went to get me a doll in Kmart,
Okay.
and there were no black dolls, so they gave me a white doll. And I threw the doll down and I said, I don't want a honky doll. I want my doll. And that's what they told me I did. I don't remember that part, but then they found a black doll for me, but the paint of it would peel off. So they painted it was a painted white doll. And when I brought it for show and tell, everybody laughed at it because literally looked like somebody had, what is that, alopecia? No, not alopecia, the
Vitiligo.
vitiligo. And I didn't understand why they were laughing at my doll. And that was the first kind of indication that something was off to me. And that was preschool, kind of first grade-ish. I went to Loyola, and I didn't know, my mom, she worked really hard to get me in school, you know, keep me in school. She thought it was going to be the best thing for me. But in Loyola, we sat in the back of the class. I don't know if it was designed that way or we were forced to. I don't remember that part. All I remember, we was in the back of the class. When I transferred to Blessed Sacrament, my mom discovered I didn't know how to read. That whole time she's been spending money on tuition that I didn't know how to read. I was so far behind my grade in the reading and everything. Mathematics was easy for me, but reading and everything. And it happened to her best friend's daughter went through the same thing, where her mom discovered she's been going to these private schools and didn't know how to read at that time. And again, it was the early 70s. I'm not sure how that happened, but I do realize when I got to
how it happened.
Yeah.
Call a spade. I know how it happened, but go on.
But yeah, and when I got to Blessed Sacrament, basically I already had low self-esteem because of our own internal racism going on there. And then when I get there and I start feeling dumb throughout high school, I felt dumb. Even though when I got to college, I figured out I was actually pretty smart. So, I carried that whole thing through me, with me through that whole school year, time. The time I actually remember being aware of race, all my girlfriends, the girls that I hung up, were white, and I didn't realize it. I really did not realize it. And my cousin and I had a birthday party, a slumber party together. And she lived in Park Hill with me. And well, we were at her house to say. When all my friends arrived and there were her friends, it was two different worlds. And I was like, wait a minute, all my friends are white and all her friends are Black. It was like a complete awareness at that point. And nothing bad happened. It was just, that's when I was aware of it. When I would spend the night over my friend's house, my white girlfriend's house, I never experienced any problems. I never experienced any hatred. They was always kind to me. So I didn't realize the hatred until later on in my school times. But that was mainly the biggest revelation about race right then, was that point when I realized, okay, they're white and they're Black. It wasn't a bad experience. It was just awareness.
Did you, in that moment, and this is a really strange question, in that moment, did you get trapped in your code switch?
What do you mean trapped in?
Meaning, when the way you speak with your white friends versus the way you speak with your cousins and your Black friends, was it the same vernacular in your code switch?
That time, I don't remember. I know I did that later on. Later on, I developed that skill of moving back and forth. It was like, again, navigating two different worlds. Is that what you mean by that? I basically learned that. I think I learned it out of high school. To me, in school, it was kind of a sheltered thing until I got to high school. And that's when the racism started coming in. I did experience bouts of racism here and there in school, like a summer camp. I was on the tennis court. We were playing doubles. And I was the only Black girl on, and I was a little bit older than all the other ones. And they were deciding on who goes first. And the little white boy said, the one with the nigger on the team. And why did he say that? Again, I'm from Park Hill, and when you grow up in it, you defend yourself. So I punched him in his chest when he said that to
Obviously,
me.
yes.
I got in trouble.
Of course you did.
He didn't, nothing happened to him,
Mhm.
but my mom pulled me out of that because she was like, no, you know, he's the one that insulted me again. But again, my natural reaction was to punch him.
Mhm.
That was my natural reaction. But, you know, it was little bouts like, you know, things like that. But generally in school itself, I don't recall any kind of distinct racism that would, you know what I mean? It was
I
like I was
do. I
living.
think what I'm remembering, and perhaps it's not the same for you. I can always remember classmates of mine because I've spoken this exact way since I was
Mhm,
like 12 years old.
mhm.
But I remember other classmates of mine, and it's probably the reason why I've spoken this way since I was 12, because I can remember, like I say for the fourth time, teachers telling Black students in my elementary, that's not how you talk. You have to speak this way. This isn't right. This isn't right. So
Mm,
our English has always been corrected from Black speak to
mhm,
correct English,
mhm.
i.e., white speak.
Actually, I got criticized out of high school for the way I talk.
Mm-hmm.
And it was from a boyfriend, and he was like, you cannot be around me talking like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I well, I wouldn't say dummy, brought down my proper speech. I wish I had it back.
But you know
But
what's
that
really,
was,
I spent so many years like mastering this, the way that the words that I use and how I formulate a sentence. I've spent many years formulating this narrative. And but the one thing that I've stopped doing is code switching, correcting what I'm going to say and homogenizing it for the white ear,
mm,
because there are some things that I say that only Black folks get. And
yeah.
I'm totally okay with that.
Hmm.
And if you want to know, want me to explain that,
Right.
I will, but I'm not going to correct the way I speak or adjust the way that I speak because you wouldn't do that for me.
Well, the opposite thing with,
No.
I don't like when they try to,
Oh yeah, that's horrible because I don't want you to do that for me.
right,
I
or
don't
just,
want you
hey
to.
girl, hey, and you don't even talk like that. I'm like, don't do that. That
Don't do
is
that.
the most irritating thing. I'm
It's
like, don't do that.
degrading. Yeah.
Yes, it is. And it's like, or they try to sound, ethnic or whatever around me. I'm like, that's not you. You know,
Just stop.
stop.
Just stop it. I don't
Just
know.
be you.
I don't know what you're doing right now. So just stop.
I want to say that, but I'm a little bit too kind for that.
I know. And hmm, in the world of masks, I've just learned to just do the slow blink, because the slow blink has always, even without the mask on, the slow blink will stop everything.
Yeah, I might have to try that.
You just go cold. You're just like, and maybe throw a sigh in there.
Yeah.
And then do that look that your mom gives you when you know that you've done something stupid.
Mm-hmm.
It's all nonverbal.
You're like, yeah, I'm gonna have to do that one. Absolutely.
I'm telling you, it stops in your tracks. It stops you in your tracks because you don't know how would you respond to that?
Okay. Just have to. I might have to get that look though. I might have to practice that look though. But yeah, that's one of my pet peeves. I understand that you want to make me feel comfortable, but being
Usually
comfortable
hello
is being you.
starts. Yeah.
Yeah, being you, just being you.
Just being yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, navigating in the professional world as you are, grown lady, taking care of her business, how are these corporate streets?
Actually, after Tia, I got laid off at Tia. I started working on a career with acting and modeling.
I
and stuff
know,
like
I saw that. I love it. I love it.
you.
Congratulations.
And it's something that I'm wondering myself why I started at 50 years old, but okay. But
Who you telling?
okay.
Girl,
But
I am
feel like the
49
world
this
is my
year.
oyster and I'm living it. I don't care what's going on in this world. I'm living my life, period. I find myself in a job where I'm a courier, and I like it because now I'm away from everybody. I don't have to absorb all the negative energy and stuff all day, every day. And I get in my car and I just drive. And I like that type of work for me.
Was the corporate grind killing your spirit?
Yes. I told my friend that, and she wanted me, get this. They're hiring at this, what was Great West Life, now Empowered. They're hiring here. Try that. I could not go back to that type of thing. And you're going from a corporate, basically a corporate job to driving. And
You're muted. You're muted.
Best thing for me. Because it frees me. It really frees me. And then you have to go back to the lab, but then that's where you pick up dealing with some people are kind, some people aren't. And I find myself in that same position I was in school, where you're one of a handful. And it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. Some people are very blatant with how they feel. They won't say it, but their actions.
You can
like you go into a door and they cut in front of you, don't hold the door for you. Or you say hi to them and they just look at you. Like that you can tell they're just seething inside, And then you have the ones that are, hey girl, how you doing? That thing that we just talked about. And internally my signal inside is like, okay. But then I have this my director who every time, he's the one that hired me. Every time he sees me, he kind of, when we're alone, is everything okay? Have you experienced any problems? And I'm like, nothing I can't handle, because I'm used to handling you. Like you said, deflecting.
Yes.
You get
really good
the art
at
of deflecting.
Yes.
Whereas most people will lose their temper, blow up, act out. I'm like, I know karma, first of all, what they label karma. And I know how that stuff works. You can rack up all your karma if you want to, but I'm not putting that on me. And whatever joy I have inside of me is gonna stay there, and you're not gonna taint it. But in this time, it's wearing. It is really wearing down. And that myth of the strong Black woman is a myth.
It's a myth.
Human beings.
Yes.
We're human beings. And we are a traumatized race.
Yes.
And we have to get out of the notion of being a strong person is admitting that you're hurting inside. It's not the one where you suppress everything, because undoubtedly that comes out. It comes out.
And when it does come out, when it does come out, it comes out in the most destructive of ways.
Yeah, it does.
In the most destructive of ways. That's why I truly believe that, because of all of the internalized trauma that many of our beautiful Black women have lived with for millennia, is part and parcel to all of the health problems that our beautiful Black women walk around with. It's part of the stress, the stigma, the having to keep everything together, and
Yes,
knowing
right.
that the minute you step out of the house,
It,
and it doesn't matter what you look like. The
mhm.
minute you step out of the house, you have to negotiate somebody's interpretation of your body.
Yes, absolutely. And especially in this time where it's surfaced so much. In
Mhm.
a way, you're
It's always
grateful.
been there.
In a way, you're grateful because it's always been there, but it was suppressed. But now it's like out in the open. In a
Hmm.
way, it's grateful because it's pushed out there. And now
Hmm.
we see people for who they are.
Who they've
And
always been.
yeah, oh
Who
yeah,
they've always been.
yeah, I agree. And I don't have the answer for what we can do about this. I
I
think, oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
I right now have decided to just live my life because you're not going to rob me of my life
Hmm.
with your mess.
Hmm.
Because I believe racism is a mental illness. And I
Hmm.
will say it over and over
Hmm.
and over again.
Hmm.
You cannot tell me that's not a mental illness. Everything else is classified as mental illness now. Why aren't we looking at that as a mental illness?
You know what's really interesting? The more I'm getting into uh, these conversations, we don't know history,
No,
period. We
we
just
don't.
don't know our history. None of us do.
Mm-mm.
And I've gone back and I'm reading more information about our full history in context.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, well, the entirety of our country is built on a lie.
Mm.
There's that. Um, well, not necessarily a lie. It's built on a promise that has never been attainable
Like
to
that, yeah.
to the majority of us.
Right. Well, it was never intended to.
It wasn't
When you think
intended to.
about the Constitution, all these Black politicians that keep throwing out that the Constitution says this about, all men are created equal. They never
So
considered us men. They never considered us human at that time.
not at
So
that time, not even now.
not even
Not
now.
even now,
It
because
was always the
everything,
2/3 rule.
even the things that you and I, because we're in the same season, um,
Hmm.
the the things that you and I learned in school,
Hmm.
and I went to school in various different parts of this country. Even the things we learned in school were incomplete
Hmm.
because history is always written by the victor.
Oh, yeah. His story. His
It's,
story.
yes, and it's always written by the victor. So the victor can tell any tale he wants
Hmm.
about, like, when we remember when we were young and we were all like, yes, cowboys and Indians, yes, and we're playing all these cowboys and Indians, not necessarily thinking about the context of these
Yes.
indigenous people who had this land, and
Hmm.
then white folks showed up and said, no, mine. And then they're
Yeah.
like, but no, girl, that's not how that works. And they're like, look, guns.
Yes.
So this is how that works. So when we talk America,
Hmm.
how dare you?
Hmm.
How dare you lay claim to a stolen land?
Right. I, you know, when it comes, of course, majority of Black America is infused with Native American blood as well.
That's what we say. That's what we say. Because
Mhm.
let me give you a
Oh,
little
my
little
grandfather was.
nugget.
I do know that
Let
one.
me give you a little nugget. My great grandma, Medea, Miss Pearl, was very, very, very fair complected. And
Uh-huh.
we thought from her lips that we were Native American.
Mm.
I told people till the high horse, no, girl, these cheekbones, yes, girl, Native American. I told people that from here to the high heavens.
Uh-huh.
my boyfriend, my partner, my beautiful, beautiful other half, got me a DNA kit for my birthday last year. And here I am, I'm telling my mom, "Ooh, girl, we're about to find out what kind of Native American we are." I'm very excited.
Okay.
I get the results back, and looking at my DNA in black and white, not a drop of native blood in
Really?
me, not a single drop,
Really?
not a single drop.
I want to take that test, but after I listened to that CEO, is it the 23andMe? There is no way. Mm-mm. She came out the box with COVID talking about it. Black people had a defective gene. And that's why if I was like, you know what? I will never do any one of those tests. Maybe Ancestry, because they said
That's the one that is the most recommended. And I did it.
Justify experimenting on Black people. That's what I got out of it. So I will not do those. Yeah.
But it blew my mind. I then called my mom. I was like, "Hey, mom, just so you know." And I tell her this, and she says, "No, that can't be right." I was like, "No, it is. I'm looking at my DNA." And she says, I have to call you back." 3 days later, she calls me back. I was like,
hard to accept.
I was like, "Mom, are you okay?" She's all like, "I just needed to collect my feelings and collect my thoughts," because her entire life she had been told that she was part Native American.
I wonder, I think that it stems from that internal racism that we carry with us. And anything other than Black, we take pride in.
What's really interesting is my great grandma was actually half Black, half white. She was biracial. But what I'm surmising, is it was easier for her to negotiate the world as a Native American woman than have to negotiate the world as a product of rape.
Wow. And that's one of the legacies we carry with us as the rape. And
that's one of the
my
legacies
grandmother was raped too.
Black women have to. Oh, go. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on that.
On my mom's side, my grandmother was raped too, but she was already extremely fair. So from the tales that we know, there was the Irish indentured servants was allowed to marry ancestor called Bushrod Bullock. And that's how she became, fair skinned or biracial. And then she was raped by a white man and had my uncle. And he looked just totally white. So yeah, that legacy of rape is one of the energies we have to get off of us, because it is there and it does affect us. We are a traumatized race.
What's really interesting about that is our young Black women, our young Black queens, are always sexualized at a much younger age.
Oh, yes.
And that opens them up to victim at a much younger age. And it also opens them up to more discipline in schools, because Black women, in people's eyes, mature faster. So you go from being a cute little girl to being a grown-ass bad bitch. And I mean that in both senses of the word. At like 12 or 13 years old.
Yeah.
When other girls are still allowed to be princesses and can throw tantrums in the middle of a Victoria's Secret
Yeah.
like a damn 4-year-old. Like a damn 4-year-old.
They're coddled. And I'm
That is a
glad
great
that
word.
surfaced, because the coddling that happens with them is, I watched the show called TGIF. It's on Fox Soul.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about that same instance. It's that coddling. The Black woman was being the one being attacked, but everybody rushed to coddle the white woman that I know they knew she was putting on an act.
Yes.
It was evident.
It was evident.
But again, she gets coddled, where the Black woman is whatever, left to the side. And that's what we have.
Aggressively so.
Mm-hmm.
And aggressively so.
Mm-hmm.
Left to the side. And I just don't understand how we're still having this conversation. But the reason why we're still having this conversation is the minute we bring things up like this to our white brothers and sisters, they instantly try to defend or justify.
They do.
And or they get uncomfortable, and we traditionally have to negotiate their feelings.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. That is an absolutely good way to put it. I know somebody who is in a interracial relationship. She's Black, he's white.
Mm-hmm.
He does not understand any of this. He will always take that side and justify that side. Well, have you ever thought it was this way or that way? And she's like, no. It's interesting. That's what makes me believe that despite loving somebody and being open to it, there is a distinct difference about how we see things, or choose to see things, I should say.
What's really interesting about that is I too am in an interracial relationship, and when things come up, like very early when we were courting, we had gone on this really, really tragic date, and the waiter was only paying attention to my boyfriend. He was only putting food in front of my partner. He was only doing everything in front of him, right? Mm-hmm. The bill comes, he puts it in front of, he drops it near me. I hold the bill up with a credit card in. 10 minutes, not even a peep. Scott touches it, he comes right over.
How many times we experienced that all the time?
As we were walking, because I didn't say anything, I'm just sitting there and I'm all like, I'm not going to go off on this man because I'm just starting to date this Scott, and I don't want to, come out with these claws, but we're going to have to, I want to know how he saw this situation. So as we're walking home from the restaurant, I was like, how was that experience for you? And then he told me his perspective, what he saw from his side of the table. I told him what I saw from my side of the table. And it blew his mind because he didn't see that.
It's so amazing.
But now he does.
Now.
Because he's doing the work, because if we're going to be in a partnership, the Black shit that I have to deal with, you need to be able to identify it.
Yeah, exactly.
And know how to negotiate your way through it with me.
It's interesting, and I'm gonna give you a story about one of the other instances about racism with me, and it was in high school. And up here, we had Tiger Beat, we had what the other little teeny bop magazines, and there was all white boys in there. I didn't know anything about a Right On magazine, a Sister to Sister magazine, or anything.
Because that wasn't in Colorado.
It wasn't.
It wasn't.
And so I'm in this school, I'm surrounded by, mainly white boys. And I never saw them as, I don't know, maybe I'm weird or not. I just didn't see them as white boys. They're cute.
They're boys.
To me, they were cute.
Yeah.
And so I had these magazines, and I remember it. My one was Jimmy McNichol, Christy McNichol's brother,
Mhm,
and then
mhm,
there was Scott Bale, Leif Garrett. It was all them in that
mhm,
book.
mhm,
And I
mhm.
had pasted all these pictures on my door of Jimmy McNichol on my door. And my dad saw that, and that didn't go over well.
It did not
And it
go over
wasn't
well.
because of he was angry, but I could see the hurt. I'm a sensitive person, so I pick up on people's emotions. I
Mhm.
sensed the hurt in him. And so I went to take it down, and I'm like crying like no other. And then he stops me. He said, "That's okay, babe." Like that. Um, that was my first indication of I'm not supposed to like them. That I
Is
got
that
in
what you,
school.
that's a really interesting takeaway.
Uh-huh. Because it's gonna hurt my dad. I didn't want to
Okay.
hurt my dad.
Okay.
But there's a double standard there, and I'll get to that one later on. But
Ooh, okay.
uh-huh. And so I'm in school, and we had a few black boys and mainly white boys, and I thought the black boys was cute, the white boys was cute to me, and then I had a crush on this one guy, and my best friend, black girl, she's like, "Nicole, that will never work in school." And right then, when she said that, I kind of developed this wall that I would never cross, kind of. I just, I admire you from a distance, but as far as interacting like that is not going to happen. Because I don't want to hurt my dad,
Hmm.
and B, I don't want all the mess,
You don't want
And I
the,
ended up, okay.
no, I was just, yeah, go on.
Oh, and then I ended up later on having a white man that was my best friend, who was a gay man, but nobody knew it at the time.
Uh-huh.
And we would go around, just like best friends do. The amount of looks and hated looks we used to get back in the day, it was mind blowing. But anyway,
Really?
oh yeah,
When was
back then,
this?
yeah, it was late 80s,
Okay. Yeah.
late
That.
80s,
Mm-hmm,
early
mm-hmm,
90s.
mm-hmm,
hmm
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But in school, when that said that, that's when I built up that wall. Later on, I love my dad, don't get me wrong, but he was he liked women,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
say that.
As
And
they
he
do.
ended up getting with cheating with on my mom with a white woman.
Mm-hmm,
And he fell in love with her and this, that, and it was just a mess, but he still loved my mom. And my
mm-hmm,
mom took a lot of stuff, in that area. Again, my dad was my hero, but he wasn't necessarily the greatest husband.
mm-hmm,
He loved my
mm-hmm,
mom, but he wasn't the greatest husband.
mm-hmm,
And I remember when I saw her, because we had accidentally drove up to the shop because he was a body man. And that white lady was standing there, and my mom was beautiful.
mm-hmm.
Guys used to be like, "Oh my God." My mom was drop dead. I mean, just beautiful. And I saw her. She had no teeth up here. Hair was greasy. She didn't look like she took care of herself. And I'm looking at that dynamic, and I kept just going back and forth looking at my mom and her, and my mom and her. And I did not understand what was going on with
Mm-hmm.
that. I developed a lot of anger with that, in that dynamic. I can't date who I want to date. I have to stay in my place, kind of thing. But they can do whatever they want to do. And I developed a lot of anger. I've had to work through all that stuff. So. But yeah, that's my history on the dating part.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So
Very.
have you dated white men?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
I haven't. Not to say that I'm not strongly attracted to any of them, but actually dating, no. It's that wall. There's a wall
It's the
there.
wall.
Mm-hmm. There's a wall.
I understand that. I do. I'm going to suggest you read there's a play out called Slave Play.
Oh, okay.
It's I'm Scott and I went to see it
Uh-huh.
the Thanksgiving before quarantines, and so 19, November of 19, and the play is it's three couples, and it's set on a plantation, and it opens with a black woman in slave drag, um, dancing to Rihanna, but it's legit a plantation. But then this white man comes out and says, slave master stuff, and there he's like whipping and all of this stuff, and then the second couple is an older white woman and a biracial man, and he's like entertaining her, violin, blah blah blah. It eventually devolves into sex. Then the third one is a interracial gay couple where the black guy is a freed black man and the white fella is a indentured servant to him.
To the black man?
Yeah. And then I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
And then the second act is we find out that this is all happening in the context of therapy. And they're interracial couples working through trauma.
Oh my, that's ingenious.
The third scene I can't talk about, but it's the most powerful thing that I think I've seen on Broadway since I moved here, outside of The Color Purple, because that was a religious experience. But it's here. Oh, Slave Play.
Okay. Wow.
It's by Jeremy O. Harris. It's an incredibly powerful play, but the script is riveting. And that just popped into my head when you said because there's something here, because when I saw it, Scott and I we went to have margaritas after it was over, and he turned green. Then he had to go outside and throw up.
Wow.
Then the next morning, we had the longest conversation about race we have ever had since we started dating.
Oh, wow. Wow. That seems like a genius wrote that.
It was fantastic. It was fantastic.
Wow. Yeah, I'm going to get that.
So I would absolutely just like fight your way through it, because there's some powerful things in here that might make you really uncomfortable. But it's worth it.
Wow. I will definitely read it. We need to make that wall come down, because it's there.
You all like, how you doing? How you doing?
Throughout, my dating experience, it's been bad. It's been traumatic for me. So people
understand.
I already have they say I have a fortress around me, and I do. I feel more comfortable by myself and not getting into relationships, period, because of all that trauma. But
because there's trauma. If what's really interesting about that, and I've spent a lot of time working through a lot of trauma that I've been walking around with, and most of it is centered around, growing up in the South. That's one version of trauma. And then after I moved to Colorado, I lost my memory, fell into this weird quasi relationship with a racist, and that was an interesting thing. Then he and I broke up because it was a strange incident one night. He was he's all like, why don't you just shut the fuck up and let me control your life like I'm supposed to? And I'm all like, but that's not a thing. And he threw my razor phone out of the window. I had to go get it, blah, blah, blah. Then I was really, 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 really mean for a very long time because I didn't want anyone to get close to me because
Mm-hmm.
I was so hurt. I was
Mm-hmm.
so raw on the inside because I didn't know who in the fuck I was, pardon my
Right.
French. And I needed to work through all of that and come through the other side. And part of that journey is working through this narrative of race, because that's been a running theme my entire life, is this relationship with race, and I don't understand how
It's
we're
like you
still
can't
here.
take the coat off. I mean, most people can live, white people don't understand. You don't have to think about this.
No, you
It's like
don't.
a coat on us that we can't take off.
What's really interesting is in the conversations I've had, and I'm talking the conversations for this podcast and the conversations that I have just recreationally out in the world. And I ask white folks, when did you learn about race? Do you know that not a single one of them have included themselves as a race because they don't think that they are?
Wow.
I have not talked to a single white person that's given me an experience of them talking about themselves as a race. They talk
Wow.
about interactions they have with us.
Wow. God, will we ever come to an understanding of it? It doesn't seem like mm,
But
I,
but here's the simplest thing about it. If we just talk like you and I are doing, you've told
mhm,
me some things I had never heard before. Like,
mhm,
you're the second person that I've talked to who's grown up Black in Denver,
mhm.
and your journeys couldn't be any more different.
Wow.
Couldn't be any
Really?
more different.
Wow.
And because, okay, you grew up Park Slope, but you brought that up. Now Park Slope has been colonized, but you know the one thing
Yeah.
that hasn't been
Park Hill, you
colonized in
mean?
the
Yeah.
neighborhood? You know what hasn't been?
What?
Those pipes, that infrastructure.
Oh yeah, they're
Because,
digging it up now. Now
oh
that it's
yes,
colonized, they're digging it
yes.
up
Oh,
now.
they're fixing it now. They were like,
Mhm.
oh no, we need to get all of this out of here
Because
now.
all
We
these
need to get.
expensive homes are getting, yeah. Hmm.
Oh, they're
They're
fixing.
digging
They're
it up
fixing
now. They're
the
digging it.
reject pipes.
Oh shoot, what happened? Okay. Yeah, they're digging all that stuff up now. They're gonna all over, on East Side where Humboldt,
Mm-hmm,
Ruth
mm-hmm.
Randolph, and Humboldt, all them streets are getting new pipes now. Now that it ain't Black anymore. And that was another thing. Oh my God. I hadn't been over in that side of town for a long time. And I was at a church where we had to go help a woman clean up
Mm-hmm.
her, because she was partially blind, clean up her place. And she lived, it was off of Humboldt. I don't remember exactly what street, but it was over there. And because my experience with that part of town was from the 90s when all the gangs were there, and everybody was getting shot, so I purposely never went over there. I went over there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm parking the car, and I see this white woman jogging down the street, and I said, "What? Where did she come from?"
Where did she come from?
And then I look around, and it's all nothing but white people. I was like, "Oh my God, what happened?" I mean, the whole dynamic over there changed. The whole dynamic.
I'm not surprised by that. I live in Harlem right now.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
yes, honey, live in Harlem, just blocks away from the Apollo Theater.
Really?
Yes, blocks away.
I heard this expensive over there.
It is. It's okay. It's for New York, where I am, for what we have, it's not bad. But my neighborhood is getting slowly more white.
Mm-hmm.
And what's happening is, well, I'm on the east side. We were on the west side before I'm on on the east side. Anyway, when we were on the west side, it was slowly but surely whitening up, slowly but surely,
Mm.
slowly. And now it's creeping over to the
Over
east
here.
side.
Yeah.
And
I
as
wonder
it
how that, I just
is,
marvel how that happens.
well, because when neighborhoods get gritty, they're like, oh my God, I'm gonna go. Like, what happens is rich kids who want to pretend to have a poor experience move into the neighborhood, or college kids move into the neighborhood, or
Um,
uh, a bunch of girls move into the neighborhood. And anytime that happens, anytime a gaggle of white girls move into a neighborhood, white boys are going to follow them.
okay. I wonder. I like, did a memo get sent out and everybody just
No,
bought
well,
up the
it's
whole
just like I
property?
want to know
Or,
like the newest neighborhood. I can come in here, and then the minute you get a good enclave into the neighborhood, the all of the amenities around that enclave tend to get whiter, better.
okay. Okay.
The food in the grocery store gets better. The
Mm,
selections in the restaurants get better. And then
mhm.
it goes this way. Oh
Okay.
my
That,
God, Jill and Tony just bought a place up here. There's a lovely place up here, like 4 blocks away. We're gonna go be there. So then Samantha and Paul move up. And then Steve and Roger move up. And if the gays come, it's gonna be glamorous.
yeah, yes. But I like the fact that we grew in a way, but it's destroying like the feel of Park Hill and Denver and stuff
What's
like that. But we needed to
No,
grow,
no,
but
no, no,
not like
no.
this.
What's happening is it's being homogenized.
Mm,
And what happens is when you go to I was walking in a parade last week, 2 weeks ago, and I saw in Times Square,
mhm.
Times Square neighborhood ish, a Margaritaville.
Okay.
Do you know what a Margaritaville is? That's a resort hotel. That's like
I've
in
heard the song.
Florida. The Margaritaville, they do commercials with and during Wheel of Fortune and stuff. It's where,
Oh, okay.
you win a prize on Wheel of Fortune. 9 times out of
Mhm.
10, they're sending you to a Margaritaville resort. It's
Okay.
now in Manhattan. They're now Targets in the middle of the city. It's being gentrified. It's being
Oh, wow.
homogenized. And so what's happening is resources are being funneled into these neighborhoods, and that's fantastic. But that only is beneficial if the people who are in the neighborhood aren't priced out of that neighborhood.
Yes. Yep. That's what's happened.
It's fantastic that I have all of these beautiful fresh produce at my grocery store.
Hmm.
But if I can't pay the rent or
Right.
the mortgage at my apartment, what's this gonna do? So now I have to go to a place where my meager income can afford, and that's
Hmm.
higher up. The higher I go,
Mm.
the less resources I
Hmm.
have, you know,
Hmm.
like our
That
old
has always
neighborhoods,
like this. Yes. In
like
our
our red
neighborhood.
line neighborhoods. And the
Hmm.
reason why those neighborhoods were always so dangerous, so disenfranchised, is because no one would ever invest there because no one
Right.
actually wanted to spend money there.
Hmm.
But all of the people doing the menial jobs for everyone else out of those red line districts lived in that red line district usually.
Mm. Mm.
And so they're spending their money in all these other districts, not spending money in this red line district because there's nothing there. So the neighborhood falls apart. The schools fall apart. The kids get prison to pipeline. And
Hmm.
it's a perpetual cycle of poverty because no
Right.
one invests there.
Hmm.
But then
Hmm.
we get angry or we penalize these disenfranchised people, these
Yeah.
poor people for being poor. We criminalize poor people for being poor.
Yes, we have. We've always done that. And, you know, when that crack epidemic happened, and
Mhm.
I watched it, we ourselves criminalized our own people.
Yes, we
Calling
did.
them crackheads, calling them this. Did we know that the crack was being infused into the
It
Black
was being
community? No,
funneled into the
it
community.
was. And
And
we didn't
then
have
on
the,
top of that, Clinton came in and made the penal the prison time for crack 3 times higher than regular cocaine of the
oh,
same amount.
hmm
And then we militarize our police force,
mm,
and we stop and frisk our young Black and brown humans,
hmm
and we suck them up into the criminal system,
hmm
thereby kind of ostracizing them from two things: the legal economy and
hmm
the right to vote.
hmm hmm I agree. And I also add a third one on there, stopping Black families from flourishing. Because
Yes,
if you can get to the Black man, separate him out, that's how we managed to only be 12% of this population this
but
long.
then criminalize the Black woman
Mhm.
for her wild children while paying her 61 cents to the white man's dollar.
Right, right. You're right.
While paying her, you're damning her while actively paying her much less money with all of the responsibilities, but then blaming her for her situation.
hmm Okay. Then they built the welfare system and put a Black face on it. And it is widely known that the Black woman was not the main source of welfare.
No,
It's white America.
yes,
They put a Black face on it because it was something, you know, from the system
yes,
to oppress us.
yes.
But to this day, no one will acknowledge the fact that it's not the majority of people on government assisted isn't Black. They will never acknowledge that. They will always put an advertisement, put our face on it.
Nicole, Miss Nicole, you know they won't acknowledge that. They won't even acknowledge the fact that our ancestors, because I am an American descendant of slavery, DNA
Mhm.
told me, our ancestors built every single avenue of commerce in this country. Our
Yes.
ancestors are responsible for the wealth of this country, yet their descendants, us, have nothing to show for it.
Nothing. And they talk about reparations, and I'm kind of straddled on the fence, and maybe you can talk some sense into me about the reparation part.
Sure.
My thing is, and because of that welfare mentality, I have a thing against issuing money out. Like I want opportunities for kids. I want their college paid for. I want housing, just like they helped white America establish housing neighborhoods and paid their mortgage and stuff. We deserve that too. We deserve protection. Those are the things that I want reparations on. I don't see handing, although I take the dang on check if they give me a check, but I don't see how that will help. It's like handing people money to keep them dependent instead of opportunities.
And my question to you is, why can't it be both?
It can be both.
Let me ask you this. In this same scenario, you can draw a line directly to the wealth of any family that you know, some way or form that white family has benefited more so
from
because of them just being white, has benefited more so. And I don't care how poor you are, your
Mhm.
life isn't more complicated based
Mhm.
on being Black. And I don't care how poor you are, you still have the opportunity to achieve. I'm not saying that I don't or you don't. but there are so many obstacles that are placed in front of us, both currently and historically.
Yes.
So do I want the opportunities as my white brothers, as my white partner that's in my bedroom right now? Absolutely. But do I also feel entitled to what my ancestors created in monetary form, to do with whatever in the hell I want to? If I want to get it in dollar bills and put it in a swimming pool and roll around in it butt naked, it's my money. I will do that.
Yes.
But I don't believe that it is anybody's place to dictate what somebody gets for having endured the life that we have. And I'm not saying my life hasn't been joyous. It's been filled with joy, filled with beautiful, beautiful opportunity, beautiful, beautiful travel. And I've seen lots and lots of things. I've met really incredible people. But I also know that my life has been complicated, and my ancestors' life has been complicated based on the history of this country.
Yes. And I get that. I just want, to me, reparation meant fairness. I don't know how
and
we
that's
can
absolutely
get to that
true.
point when it comes to credit, when it comes to bank loans, when it comes to car loans.
Burn it all down. Burn it all down, because it was, and I know that that's not possible, but I think it's not possible, but that's the only way that makes sense. And I know that it's not going to happen, but in my head, we can't go the law way without unpacking all of the idiosyncrasies that exist in our law based solely on color.
And they keep saying, people keep saying there's no systemic racism. Yes,
the hell
there is.
The hell.
Yes, there is.
And then we have to unpack the educational system, but we have grown adults talking about critical race theory in a way that clearly tells me that they don't know what the absolute hell it is.
I agree. Even I don't understand critical race theory, and it's largely because I've been trying to separate, for my mental health, not watch a lot of stuff.
It's the easiest thing in the world. This is the easiest way I can explain it. Critical race theory is learning history in all of its context, all parts of history, and discussing the impact that it has in modern day society.
Right. I agree.
Critical race theory isn't teaching kids to hate one another. It's teaching us all how important we've made this idea of race in this country, how it's built into everything about us. If it were not, it wouldn't be on every form that we have to fill out.
Right.
If our race wasn't important, it wouldn't be on every single document attached to you and I and everyone else we know.
And my thing with that, I have a theory with that. They keep saying African American, and yes, it's important about African, but I'm American first. My ancestors were American. We born and raised here. And yes, Africa is our home country, but it seems like a term that reminds us that we don't belong here. We belong in Africa first and then America. And I get that, but I was born here.
And I appreciate
my ancestors' blood is here. They went through all that they did, and I don't want to negate that by saying, but that's my thing with that. We all got our philosophies on that.
Well, this is the way I look at it. I always refer to myself as Black, but I understand African American because American-born African Americans, Black African Americans, are unlike any other Black people on the
Mhm.
planet.
Right. We are.
We are a very, very unique creation,
Hmm.
an amalgamation of all kinds of things from all
Hmm.
different tribes of Africas, from all over the world, depending on who we are and what our blend is.
Hmm.
And that distinction of African American is a badge of honor, saying this is the
I
amalgamation of who I am, and
right.
how dare you. But I also I get what you're saying. My ancestors are from Africa. They're from
Right.
various places in Africa. My ancestors are also from Wales. They're also from Portugal. They're also
Mhm.
from all of these other places. And when you visually look at me, you see a Black man,
It's
and
like we
that's
don't
how
get
I
to
represent
celebrate that
myself.
part of us either. We don't get to celebrate that part of us.
And I think that the celebration in that part of us is the moniker of African American,
Mm.
because of the unique creation that we are.
I do. I believe that. I just, the argument was when Colin Kaepernick nailed on, for the
Mm-hmm,
national anthem that
mm-hmm.
we don't like this country. We're against this country,
Oh
but you
no,
keep reminding us that we're not part of this country, and I
that was
am a part
just
of this country.
that was a racist dog whistle though. And all that was is a bunch of grown white men
Mhm.
bitching about a young human with good knees and a fantastic job, and they were doing something that they didn't like. So they complained loud enough
Mhm.
with their money and their words, and then they got 45 involved. And
Mhm.
then all of these things became about unpatriotic when that wasn't at all what it was about. It
How
wasn't
they
at
could
all what it was
justify the
about.
insurrection as not patriotic. I mean, as patriotic. I don't.
You know why.
I'm not gonna get that. It's the same. He took a knee. They were trying to kill folks,
Yes, yes.
literally
And
climbing
we all
our
watched it.
Capitol.
We
And
watched it in living color on
yeah,
every channel
and then
on
we
the
get
TV.
gaslighted by it. Oh, it wasn't what you thought. You were literally climbing walls. You were beating the hell out of officers that you so-called wanted to protect this whole time.
Wearing Camp Auschwitz t-shirts with a noose,
What?
carrying
Yeah.
Confederate flags.
Hmm.
You know,
Hang Mike Pence. They were
do
saying
you
hang
know,
Mike Pence. Are you kidding me?
I have a question. From that moment, seeing all of that, and
Mhm.
granted, mostly during the last 4 years with 45, um, I became slightly triggered by seeing the American flag because now I equate it with white supremacy.
And isn't that a shame?
Isn't
Now
it
we
weird?
we we can't even. Yeah, because if I buy an American T-shirt, I feel like I'm gonna be an Uncle Tom. I'm gonna be
Yeah,
considered an Uncle Tom.
that's
You
how
know,
I feel.
it's like we get robbed. They criticize us that we aren't patriotic, but we get robbed of the chance to be patriotic too.
Well, we're only patriotic when it's needed or necessary. Remember, we have ancestors, I don't know if you do, but I know that I do, who fought in the wars, all of the wars. You name the wars, I'm
Mhm.
sure I have ancestors. I know that my father's father went to World War II. I know
Mm.
that. But
Mhm.
when he came back, did he get a home loan?
No.
Did he? They had to work real, very, 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 very hard to
Mhm.
pay off that house
Mhm.
that they eventually did buy. But it took them a real long time, but they didn't get the help.
Right. No benefits.
But yet, even myself, I just realized I'm actually a veteran and I'm still triggered by the American flag. I always forget that, but I served in the military for 4 years.
Wow.
And I put, there's a, oh yeah. And the thought of a flag, it just, I don't know, it just triggers me.
Yeah, it triggers me too when I see it. And, you know, when I drive, there's a flag. It's a beautiful flag off I-25, and
Mm-hmm.
it's huge. And it,
Mm-hmm.
on a good day, and when it's clear, the mountains behind it, and that flag is flying, it gives me chills. That
Mm-hmm.
is beautiful like that. But then my mind will kick in like, what are you doing?
Watch your back, girl.
And then I see these trucks, these Tonka toy trucks with their racist symbols on their truck with the American flag in the back of it. Whereas 1 minute it looked so beautiful against the mountains. Now it's a source of pain, you know, or you know, disgust, or you know, things like that. That's what I mean by we're getting robbed of the opportunity to be proud Americans. Or,
you know, I just had a really interesting thought. We were in Florida last year for my partner's sister's wedding, and we went to a diner and for breakfast.
mm-hmm.
There was a 45 rally being held, and we walk into the restaurant. We're wearing our masks, you know, and I'm wearing this t-shirt, and it says protect Black girls. It's just protect Black girls, protect trans girls, protect fat Black. It's just my favorite t-shirt about Black girls. Anyway, we walk in and we're looking around, and almost everybody in there either had on a pink Trump hat or a red Trump hat. It was like two gazelles walking into a den of lions. And we walked in, clack, 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 clack. And we sat down and we ate the greasiest breakfast, the fastest I have ever eaten in my life. I think we were probably in there for like 15 minutes. I'm all like, oh my God, I have to go. And we get out and we're all like, okay, we're gonna walk out. Clack, clack, clack. And we're walking to the car. And when we got there the first time, there was this like honking and big old signs, women for Trump. There was a rally happening at the corner of this restaurant that we had went to breakfast at. We get out and they were full rallying with woos and horn honks, and there was a giant Trump flag and this whole thing. And we're getting back into the car, clack, 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 clack. And I've made a deal with Scott that every time we go in the South, he drives. Because we're already a lot. We don't want putting me behind the wheel as another thing.
Mm-hmm.
So he's driving and he's like looking around and he's all like.
So does he ever feel defensive when you guys are out like that? Is he ever on guard, or is he aware of Black?
Oh yeah, we watch it kind of like a comedy. Like when I'm in the thick of these things, it's easy for me to turn it on, and in my brain it's like a rom-com.
Okay.
And all of these ridiculous, absurd things are happening all around me. And I'm watching it like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen on this. I wonder what's going to happen in this scene. And so all of these things happen. And I say some things, and then they say some things, and then Scott says some things, and then we're all like, okay, now we've all said some things. And then we leave.
So there's no fear that you'll be attacked at all when you...
No.
See, I carry that fear with me all day, every day. It's always in the back of me. Because ever since, all this with Trump and stuff has happened, people are more blatant. I've had a man, I was walking down the street. I do my walks on the weekend. I was walking down the street. I had stopped at a dollar store, got something. So in my bag, I had my bag in my hand. And this white guy walks past, and obviously, to me, he looked like he might have been on drugs, or now, or at least, here recently. And it was like he reached for my bag, and I put my hand up, like, no, I didn't say anything. I just put my hand up, and he blew up. And I just kept walking. I said, either this man is going to attack me and I'm going to have to defend myself. And I'm thinking of all the stuff that I have to defend myself. I got mace. I actually got a can of coconut milk. And if that doesn't do some damage to him, I'll go over there and get a rock. And in my mind, I have to organize how I'm going to get out of this situation. So I keep walking, and he's in back of me acting a complete nut. I could sense it. And so a white lady was driving down the street, and she stopped her car, and she just was honking at me. I think she was trying to warn me that he was trying to run up on me and stuff. And I look back, and he's all giving me the finger and stuff. And I'm like, okay. But I'm still thinking of all my arsenal that I'm going to mess this dude up, with, because I'm not afraid to fight you, dude. I'm not afraid to fight you. I've had that instance. I've had walking from work to the bus stop, several instances where people either trying to provoke conflicts with me, men, women, anybody. One dude let his dog out on me at the Broadway station. And I know enough, to command a dog to know. And he said, basically sat down and looked at me. I had to do that. You muster up all the bravery you have, and you say no, and it'll, stop the dog. It did in this instance. But I always, as soon as I walk out the door, I always know there's a possibility of something happening. And it may be because you're a man and I'm a woman that they feel more comfortable with attacking Black women like this.
I absolutely agree with that. And I have had people try to come for me, but I've made it a point in my life, a journey in my life, that I have never hit another person, and I've never been hit by another person in my entire life. What I have been able to do is make you feel really bad by the things that have come out of my mouth.
Right. I don't have that ability. I do. Yeah.
I'm very, 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 very good at it.
Yeah.
And Scott calls it my superpower. But in instances when people have come at me crazy, I have enacted that particular skill and stopped situations.
Okay.
Usually by making you feel stupid and then belittling, and then we turn it around to a teachable moment, and then we all walk away and you apologize.
I would love to have that ability. I don't have that ability at all. But I noticed the pattern of trying to provoke. You see it all in the news.
Yep.
Recently with the guy that was throwing the racial slurs they were at a townhouse or something. And then he did all that, and he's cussing them out. And then all of a sudden, all the Black people showed up. Did you see that?
Oh, yes. I saw him.
I am very proud of our young Black people, because most of the time, their anger towards us I don't think is fair about the older Black generation. And they do have a problem with us. I don't think that's fair.
I think that they're upset with our complacency. But what they don't realize is we had to navigate a world that our parents were were born under Jim Crow.
Right. And they don't understand. It took all of our ancestors to get to this point to where
All
they
of them.
can be
Yes.
like this. They
Mhm.
can fight and they can stand up without any reservations. But we've experienced what will happen. You know, they don't have that. I mean, they have the fear or whatever, but not what we went through.
Yeah, and plus they can't give up on us yet. We're
Getting there.
we're only in our 50s. We are still in the middle of our first, actually we're finishing up our first act in the middle of our second. Yeah.
Somebody said the fourth quarter. I'm like, I am not in the
You're
fourth
like,
quarter.
how dare you? You better look at
I'm
this
at
skin.
halftime, dude. No.
Like, you better look at this skin. Get into these lips. Right?
Oh, and we could talk about that part too.
What?
Because why it is with these entertainers that they feel like to generate buzz about them, they can insult Black women. The latest one was, her name was Tia Tequila or some mess, where she's talking about Black women are cursed because of our hair. This came out this week. And I'm like, yeah, but you do realize God created us to absorb heat, our hair to absorb the heat of where our region's from. But we're also blessed with marvelous skin from our 20s to our 60s, still looking the same. We're also blessed with a walk that will stop a man in his tracks. We're also blessed with a rhythm and dance that you keep trying to imitate but can't duplicate. So I'm tired of entertainers.
I don't pay that any attention, because back, you know just as well as I do, because our mamas always told us this, when somebody has something to say about you, they're actually talking about themselves.
Right.
And I am too grown. I'm too grown to pay any of that disrespect any mind.
Right. But it does affect younger people, though. I mean, I know
it does. I know that it does. And what the counter to that is all of these beautiful young humans out here in these streets living their best life, showing us who they are. And those voices are louder than some washed up porn star.
Okay. That is so true. And that, the beautiful thing about these movements is all the races were there pushing for this.
Mm-hmm.
That was so beautiful. And the fact, my friend Eddie is, he's Latin.
Mm-hmm.
He told me to watch John Leguizamo, A Latin History for Morons. Have you seen that?
Mm-hmm.
Was that excellent or what? Because it opened stuff he didn't even know about his own culture. But every race has a contribution to this world.
Yes.
And suppressing everybody else to lift one up is it's stupid. We all contribute to this world. It's a beautiful world.
It's a beautiful world.
Everybody.
And I don't want to yuck your yum. I don't want to block anybody's blessings. If you don't like what the world is doing, you go over there.
Okay.
And do whatever it is you're doing. And we're going to be over here thriving beautifully, luxuriously, in our power, and leave it at that.
And that's when I said, I'm not going to let people steal my joy. I'm not going to let them steal my life. And so many times we get so absorbed with the race fight, and it becomes, and of course we have to live it every day, but it doesn't have to take our minds all the time.
Or here's a fun thing. You can just say no. Meaning, granted, I talk about race every single day, every single day. And you would be amazed at some of the ridiculous things people have said to me. You'd be amazed at it. And the only thing that I do is repeat back what I hear the way I heard it. And when I do that, they hear how absurd it sounds.
Some of this stuff is so bizarre.
It's so bizarre. I was like, I don't understand that. For instance, I'll give you an example. I was down in Asbury, New Jersey, with some friends last year around when George Floyd was murdered. And one of the guys at the table I was at, he's all like, well, you know, if he didn't have that fake 20, he wouldn't have been murdered. If he would have just done what the cops told him to, you know, those ghetto people, you know how they are. I was like, okay.
You mean a man's life?
I was like, okay, let me understand. Let me make sure I understand you correctly. And I was like, Mr. Floyd was in his car minding his own business. The cops walked up to him, screaming and yelling. They executed this man on the street because, you know, the cops don't see us like they see you. And he's all like, oh. I was like, but you're more concerned for the stores with all this insurance. All this insurance, every single item in that store will be replaced. And the owner of that store is going to get a big ass check for it. But you're more concerned about that than you are about that single Black life.
Right.
Then I asked him, what makes my life more important than yours? I'm sorry, more important than his? I was like, nope, better question. What makes your life more important than his?
Wow.
He couldn't answer that question.
Yeah, I don't think
And
that's
he kept backpedaling on that. And, well, I'm just playing the devil's advocate. And I'm going to say it to you like I say it to everybody else. The devil doesn't need you to be his advocate.
Devil doesn't need you.
The devil doesn't need you to be his advocate.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
What is it that you do again? You're the manager of some office somewhere. The devil does not need you to be his advocate.
Right.
You are not qualified to be the devil's advocate.
Okay. I'm gonna plug my phone in real quick. Okay.
But so it's like, it's that constant gaslighting. And when you repeat back that gaslight, like you don't honestly think I believe that. You can't think I believe that.
I don't, they're trying to, a lot of the stuff I hear, they're trying to convince them their own selves of the lie.
That's exactly what's happening.
And they think that telling it more and more to themselves is going to make that inner man believe it. And it's not. It's not.
But who it will influence are the people watching on TV who may not have the time or the knowledge to be able to decipher what it is that they're saying and taking everything on face value.
I understand that, but I also know as a human being, we have a choice. We have a choice every single day. We have a choice of what we decide that we're going to believe or what we're not going to believe. This notion of, I was led to believe that. No, you chose to believe. You
chose to believe. That was a choice you made.
And the lack of accountability in their own, within themselves, yet they hold everybody else accountable.
I was watching CNN a few weeks ago, and they had some fellow who was at the insurrection on with Jim and Poppy talking about, well, I was misled by Donald Trump and I feel like that I wouldn't have done it, blah, blah, blah. And then they cut to his skeevy attorney who looked like he had just come from a grease factory. And he's just sitting there like, he had on like a skull and crossbones earring or something, and a dark shirt with a really light tie, which is somehow triggering for me because it's tacky, but it is. And so,
I know you saw, that's why it's funny.
It's tacky. Anyway, so he's talking about, well, Donald Trump misled my client and we're going to try to get him off with this. And now they're coming up with some mental disorder. It's foxitis, or it's something that they're calling it to justify, yes, to justify the antics of these QAnon supporters who've gone over the deep end, when we can't just call it what it is, stupidity. Or, as you brought it up earlier, suffering from the mental disease of racism.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's definitely a mental disease, but you decide that every single day. Every human being on this earth decides what they're going to believe.
I think that a lot of them just are trying so hard to belong to something. Yeah. And they're trying so hard to be a part of something because they feel so lost and disenfranchised, and they don't feel heard, and they don't feel seen, and they don't feel understood. Guess what? That's how we all feel.
Every single day.
Every single day.
It must be a real shock for, white people that never really thought of anything. And I see, let me see how I can say this. They never really thought of anything. And then you make them aware of racism and stuff, and that you have white privilege. And then they're angry at one point, but then they realize that, oh, I'm privileged and I don't want to lose that. And sometimes I see that in them. That's what I view them as. They want to hold on to it. Mm-hmm. Now they're aware of it, but they also see the benefits of it and they're holding on to it. Those type of people I believe, were at that inspection. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, I don't want to lose my privilege,
Oh no, because if I lose my privilege, it's going to feel like oppression.
Yes, like your friend said, yes. That was an awesome statement. Yes.
Yeah, girl. Well, Nicole,
yeah,
this has been such a brilliant, beautiful conversation.
I loved it. I love connecting with you. When we worked together, I was like, oh, should I talk to him or should I not talk to him? I was like, your aura is like, yeah. I just enjoyed you. Yes.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. And yes. I want to let you know that I am honored to have had this chat with you. And I'm a better person for having had it.
Me too. As well. Yeah. Maybe later on we could have other conversations about stuff.
Listen,
there's a whole lot of stuff we can talk about.
A whole lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. I feel like just we could do an episode alone on Tia Craft. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to turn this recording off before they come after me.